Are we recording, Angelique?
We're set to go.
Okay, awesome. Welcome to the Colorado Libraries for Early Literacy 2024 annual conference. You are at 5 Ways to Reach Reluctant Readers with Fleur Bradley. Our session ends at 2:25 Mountain Time and will be followed by a 25-minute break. If you run into any issues with the live stream, we encourage you to try refreshing your app or browser window. We ask that attendees watch the live stream and use the chat functions on Zoom. If you experience audio or connection issues, please try refreshing your web browser or Zoom app. I'll also be keeping an eye on the chat as well, so if you have any issues, you can type them in there. And now it is my great pleasure to hand it off to Fleur Bradley.
Hi, everyone. I'm so honored to be here and talk to you about reluctant readers, which is my favorite topic in many ways. Anybody who knows me knows that I'm happy to pull out my soapbox and talk about how important it is to reach readers, which I really don't need to tell you because that's your job. But today I'm hoping that, let me see if it'll let me share. Okay. Here we go. So I'm going to talk you through some of the things that I learned. And I made a presentation to talk about that. So let me go ahead and start with that and see if it'll let me share. Can everybody see this? Holler if it's no. Otherwise, I will start. I really should start, but when I talking about reaching reluctant readers, I should start with why that is my passion and why I talk about this so much. Because it really starts with the story. I am an author. I am not a teacher. I am not a librarian. But my passion is books. And when my very first book came out, it's called Double Vision. It's kind of like Spy Kids sort of book, or Alex Rider. I was so excited to share it with everyone. And at the time, I was also homeschooling my kids. And my youngest daughter just hated reading, absolutely hated it, and had the worst time trying to retain any information that she read. And because I was homeschooling and we lived in Mississippi at the time, where there just wasn't a lot of support other than sort of going, yes, she has trouble reading, and there was some testing, but at the end of the day, it was up to me to try to remediate that to some extent. So I learned everything I could about reluctant readers and why she might have such trouble reading, and I found out that she has a reading impairment. When she reads something, it's not dyslexia per se, but when she reads something, just the words jumble, and she has a hard time retaining the information. So we did a lot of talking about books, and because I had a book coming out that was also geared towards reluctant readers, I learned a great deal about how a reluctant reader presents, and it kind of opened up a whole new world for me. So without further ado, now that you sort of know what makes me talk about this so passionately, let's talk about reluctant readers and really take a look at, what did they say? I don't read. I get that from adults as well. So, but a lot of kids, especially now, reading is definitely falling by the wayside, and with phones and computers and television taking over. More and more kids say, I don't read. I don't like any of these books. So let's say you are trying to present a kiddo with books that might be a fit. They just go out and say, no, shutting it down. What's the minimum I have to read? So in Mississippi, there was a system where kids had to read a certain amount, and there were points and a whole complicated thing. But this is something that came up a lot. They would pick, the easiest books they could find, just to try to make it as easy as possible. This book looks boring. I feel that sometimes when I see a book that's kind of got a thick spine. So I feel that. They won't say anything. They'll look at the spine. They'll flip through the pages and kind of like, eh. Let's look at why kids say these things, because we've all seen this happen. Let's talk about the why behind it. So these are some statistics. 1 in 4 kids in America grow up without learning to read, which is a horrible
Fleur,
statistic. Yes.
sorry to interrupt. We can see your screen, it looks like, but we're not seeing that slide. I'm not sure if maybe it
Okay.
needs to transition to the presentation.
Are you not seeing any slides at all when I do this? Do you see this?
We see the your header slide, and then we see the following slides on the left.
Okay.
Um, but
But
that's
you're not seeing the presentation. Okay.
no. Mm-mm.
Let me see what I can do. Uh, Sorry about this. This stinks. Let's see. Um, mm, Trying to see if there's a setting I am missing. How about now? At all? No?
No, no change on the
Um,
side.
okay. Um, let's go back for a minute. Do you see the Midnight at the Barclay Hotel slide or no?
No,
Okay.
we're not
Mm,
seeing any change on the screen at all.
okay. I'm going to try this again.
Oh, there it is.
That's better. Yep.
Okay. Okay. You know what? I might just go through it this way. It solves the problem. This is sort of my editing view, and we're all, we've done PowerPoint before, so I don't bother you. I don't think when I do it this way. So let's just do it this way. It's easier. If you
Perfect.
can
Thank you.
see, yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Good. Um, all right, so here's some statistics. You get them all at once, which is terrible. But here we go. So students don't read proficiently by the third grade. Those kids that don't read proficiently by the third grade are 4 times more likely to drop out of school. So we're talking about high school dropout, which is terrible. Of course, we don't want that to happen. And reading is such a huge indicator of that. 53% of fourth graders read recreationally almost every day, while only 20% of eighth graders. I think that statistic might be worse now. And an estimated 20% of kids struggle from a sometimes undiagnosed reading disability, and that comes from the Learning Disabilities Association of America. So I don't make that stuff up, but I see it all the time. And I saw it in my own daughter that she was very good at hiding it, very good at um, not telling me if she didn't understand something, she would just work around it. And because that happens already in these lower grades, by the time kids get older, this becomes a problem in learning. So let's see the next slide. So let's talk a little bit more about that reading disability because I think it's important to identify because it's a large percentage of your reluctant readers will probably have one. And it's not our job to diagnose that, but more to understand. So they won't understand what he or she reads, have poor spelling skills, struggle when and avoid reading aloud. The reading aloud is a huge deal. I know that it's sometimes necessary in class, but gosh, it makes it so hard for kids who have trouble reading. And they'll struggle to express ideas in writing, but often verbally present very advanced ideas. So my youngest daughter was that way. Very good at big picture thinking, was very intelligent, but writing, was definitely a struggle. So we had to work on that. Kids like that will have a limited vocabulary because we get so much of our vocabulary from reading. I know I did growing up, and if you're not reading, your spelling, your just the amount of words that you know reduces. They'll have verb confusion, so you'll see in writing that they'll use a word that sounds similar but means something else. And they'll have trouble following directions. This is difficult because so much of what we do every day is written down, and it's hard uh, for those kids to read, but they'll often be very good visual learners or auditory learners. They'll cover it all up with jokes and an attitude. They're the kids in the back, the class clowns, you won't know them. So, how do we help these kids? Because now we understand a little bit where they're coming from. So, it's not so much about attitude, but it's about ability. So, how can we work around that? So, the good news is you are here. You're listening to me, and I appreciate that very much because I really want to get these kids reading because it will open up doors to success. There's stepping stones you can use to help even the hardest struggling reader. So the kid that has the hardest time, we can help them improve a little bit at a time. The key is to look at books the way those kids look at books, so you can overcome you can help them overcome those mental obstacles that we talked about in the very beginning, a thick spine, lots of words, dense paragraphs. So we'll talk about that in a minute. So let's think like a reluctant reader to understand um, what what they look at. How thick is the spine? Yeah, I mean, I can appreciate a good Stephen King book, but sometimes those are just too long, even for me. And I'm a bit of a reluctant reader. I figured out myself. What's on the cover? Do the characters look like me? There's been improvement definitely within the publishing industry to not have all the kids look the same. So it means a lot if you have a child that they can recognize themselves on the cover, and it makes you want to read the book, right? How much white space is there? So that's important because it gives your eyes a break and it gives you a chance to catch up and makes it easier to comprehend dialogue, things like that. All work great for reluctant readers. So illustrations are good. Again, they're visual learners, so graphic novels are great. Humor, always good. Um, then so how can you those 5 ways that we came here for? What can you do? So it's adjusting your approach. So treat books as entertainment and look for pop culture tie-ins. You can do that, Wimpy Kid, anything that's been made into a movie that helps because it takes it from being a book to something bigger, something that's entertaining. Listen to what kids like, even if it's Ripley. Believe it or not, there's a lot of kids that come to me with you know just stuff that you think, ugh, but it doesn't matter because any reading counts. Anything does, whether it's a magazine or whatever you think you could put in front of a kid. When I lived in Mississippi, I talked to a lot of the librarians there, and one of them had a because she lived in a very impoverished part of Mississippi, and kids, didn't have a lot of support at home, but they really wanted for kids to read every night. And they had a reading phone chain, where they would call the kids at home and go, "Hey, have you read today?" And then the next day they would share what they had read. And some of the kids would bring home anything, a cereal box. One kid brought in a pillow with the pillow label on it, which I thought was a funny story, a little bit sad also, because there clearly weren't a lot of books in the home. But my point is more that you have to sometimes adjust your own thinking about reading, in that anything counts because it'll do all this magic stuff in their brain. Ask them what their favorite book is and why. Kids love to give recommendations. Anytime I go on an author school visit, I end with, "Hey, what do you have you guys read? What do you like? What are you into?" And it gives me so much information because I can see what kids are into, what makes them excited. Plus, you make them active participants and give them agency in the conversation. So it's not just me spouting like I am right now, going through a PowerPoint, and the kids are going, "Yeah, there's more teaching." It becomes a conversation. It becomes something saying, "Hey, I value what it is that you think is good." And it doesn't matter what it is. And a lot of the time, it's the kids in the back that have been quiet that will come up and tell me really excited about some sort of book series they're really into. And then I take a note and I go home and I read it. That's cool. So, again, those stepping stones. You can start small and take it to the next step, whatever that is. If it starts with a pillow label, doesn't matter. Cereal box, graphic novels, nonfiction tie-ins, audiobooks are great stepping stones for reluctant reader. So audiobooks are kind of magic in the way that, um, if you can get the kids to listen to the audiobook and read along, it teaches them 100 million gazillion things, least of all what words look like, what it sounds like, but the sentence syntax sounds like, what how what word they'll learn new words, they'll learn new spelling, and they'll learn how a word sounds when you say it out loud. So it expands their vocabulary in a great way. Audiobooks are really good. Because it kind of overcomes that threshold of a maybe more difficult book to read. And then you can slowly go to the thicker spine book or one without illustrations, especially if you're dealing with younger children that may be coming off of chapter books. the sort of goosebumps or what have you, you can slowly go into illustrated books. One of my books, Midnight at the Barclay Hotel, has illustrations in it, makes it a little bit more accessible for those kids that are coming off of chapter books. It makes them feel like, hey, like this I can recognize, or just looks a little bit like the books I'm used to. And then Daybreak on Raven Island is for a slightly older child and does not have illustrations. So you can kind of see those are the illustration ones are good stepping stones, and more are being published, thankfully. Don't push too hard, because the worst thing that can happen is that a kiddo will not be able to keep up, and then they'll feel like a failure in their reading journey, and it stinks. Nobody wants to feel like they're not good enough or they can't keep up. So slow and steady wins the race. And with each book that you recommend, so let's say you go from chapter books to a graphic novel, ask, what did you like? How did that go? And what didn't you like and why? Because you can also learn a lot about what books to give to the next kid. It's all information that will make you better, particularly for y'all in um, libraries, and make you better at your job in a way, keeping an open mind and always being flexible. Making reading social is a huge thing if you can make it happen. I've seen some really cool stuff happen. I once did a one book, one campus event in the Denver area, and it was so cool. They took my very first book, Double Vision, which is set in Paris, and the whole school was made into Paris with like just fun stuff that the kids could do, activities, and they had really gone all out. And it takes the book that is something that I have always experienced as something sitting in a corner and I'm reading and flipping through the pages and it's mine. It makes it something that is everybody's. So then it becomes a social event and a conversation. And reading together creates community, makes kids want to join in on the fun, because that's the other thing. They see the other kids doing it. They're like, hey, this book club is kind of cool. What are they doing over there? So reading the same book, really cool. I've heard of some librarians and teachers that have done that, and there'll be a little catchphrase in the book, and they'll say it to each other in the hall, which I thought was really neat. Try to avoid reading aloud if you can. It doesn't, a library, maybe for y'all it doesn't matter so much, but for the teachers I have spoken to, I know it's part of sometimes of reading a book together, but you can really, it's like putting a spotlight on that kid who has trouble reading. So just be real mindful of that. Um, Talk about books. This is what y'all do, but it's if you share your excitement, it's contagious. If you are excited about it, the kids really have a far more open mind than sometimes they present coming to you, and they want to be part of that excitement. They want to be part of your community. So try taking reading beyond the page. I have here a copy of my website has extra activities, and a lot of books and authors have activities that I mean, I've word searches, and you can make a wanted poster and stuff like that. It's real simple. You don't have to invest a lot of time, but a lot of time you can just print it off. It's already in existence. If there's a book that you think, would really appeal to your reluctant readers, take a look online and see what the author has, what the publisher maybe has. Sometimes publishers do things too, which is really cool. Let's see where we are. We're over here. Celebrate progress. So if there's any progress at all, even if it's really minor, let's celebrate it. And I'm a big celebrator of progress, mostly because during the COVID days when everybody was, stuck inside and we couldn't do much, most of my time was spent doing author visits online for Midnight at the Barclay Hotel, mostly. Um, and it was really exciting. And then lots of good stuff started to happen for Midnight at the Barclay Hotel, which made me really happy. And we got into a thing with my daughters who were in the house at the time. Um, and we started celebrating every little success we had with cake. So now my sort of catchphrase, and everybody goes, the cake lady. I'm really big on celebrating when something good happens, because life is hard, and life is hard for the kids. Life is hard for y'all. celebrate anytime something good happens and you made a connection and you got a kid to go maybe from a graphic novel to a novel that has illustrations in it. That's progress. That's huge. Share your success with your fellow librarians, educators. Share what works. Go, hey, you know what? I had a really good day and this happened. And this kid really responded to this book. I highly recommend it. That's, you know, we all sometimes stay in our little capsules a little too much. And it's great to share and to just go, hey, something went well today. And that's exciting. And then you kind of encourage everybody else. So set goals with your kid. If you're trying to, sort of get a child who's maybe really struggling, see if you can set some goals and go, hey, let's do this. And then you can have some sort of a reward, maybe advanced reading copies of novels or some other incentive, lunch with an author. I'm personally always very approachable. I'm happy to send signed bookmarks, do anything, or do uh, quick Q&As, like a Zoom visit, and it doesn't cost anything because it makes me happy to connect with other people. Because just like everybody else, I'm in my capsule a lot. I spend a lot of time here writing, so connecting with kids, connecting with educators, like we are doing right now, that makes my week. So please don't be afraid to ask. In the worst case, the author doesn't have time, something like that. That's okay. It's worth a shot. And they'll if a kid really responds to a book and it's their favorite, um, don't hesitate to have them send an email to that author or something like that. That you'd be surprised. Even the most famous ones will respond. So that I kind of talked a little bit about the downloadable activities. You want to keep that momentum going once you've engaged and you made a connection and you've gone, yeah, you know what, you went from this to this. Let's try this next, or other ideas. A book review blog. I know some schools that do that, have to put the kids' reviews on the internet. This is a picture of me at my One Book One Campus event, which was so special and amazing to have happen. And those were all people that were excited and excited about the book. And it's so nice to make a connection like that. So whatever it is you can do to take the book off the page, I highly recommend it. Invite parents if you have a parent teacher organization, anything like that, or even kids as parents, book clubs. A lot of time when I go to a book club, the parents are there, which is great because then we can all talk about the book. And then sometimes, if I'm really lucky, the parents have read the book with the kids, which is my very favorite. Happened a lot during COVID. It's a little bit less now. But it's so fun because then we can have a conversation all together, and then we're all making a connection, which is what we're after. So again, invite the author, do whatever it is that you could think of, brainstorm things. It doesn't have to be a huge event like the One Book One Campus, because that's a lot of work. You can start small and see where it goes. Why is it all worth it? So why do we want to do all this work other than for the love of reading? 20 minutes of reading a day can get a child to benchmark or above at grade 4 and 6. So those reading times, remember that reading chain where people were making phone calls, seems like a lot of work, but I bet they made a big difference. I bet they did. Proficient readers are 5 times more likely to graduate. This is why I'm excited about this topic, and I bring out my soapbox whenever someone allows me. Reading is everything. I could spout out 100 more statistics about um, math here. There's one: strong readers answer 66% more math questions correctly. That's huge. And that's reading, it has nothing to do with numbers, but it does things in your brain. It makes connections, it makes your brain sing, and it does makes everything else go better. Students with reading goals read 35% more. So that conversation you're having, that breakthrough with the kid, it makes a difference. Kids who read 30 minutes or more daily are twice as likely to be college ready. So for some of you who might be dealing with kids that come from a struggling home or have a difficult time and don't have as much reading encouragement at home, you are making a difference. You really are. Bonus tip: change your own mindset. So I had to change my mindset about reading, and with my youngest, and she's doing fantastic now. But it takes time, and a lot of it is about you, well, how you see reading, and how it is something that someone likes or doesn't like. It isn't like that. It's more about, we all have to read, and reading is the key to everything else for kids. So we have to do everything we can to get them to read. It's a lot about changing your own mind. So this book that I put here, a beautiful picture book. If you haven't had a chance to read it yet, highly recommend it. It's called I Talk Like a River, and it's about the author's um, journey as I believe he's dyslexic, lexic or a stutter. No, it's a stutter. I'm sorry. So he stutters, and that's one of the things. Kids who have a stutter often also have trouble reading, so that's why I put it here. But I thought it was a really beautiful book because it talks about not looking at that as a disability, but more like just something that is. Because he talks like a river and it ebbs and flows and it has bumps, and reading is much the same way. So the kids you're dealing with, they kind of read like a river. So look at it, don't fix it, but accept it instead. Um, and your goal is to make each kid think of themselves as a reader. That's the biggest thing. Everybody can be a reader. Everybody is a reader. It takes time, and it takes the willingness to look for the right book for those kids and the right excitement. um, let's see, resources, and I can send you this slideshow, just a PDF of it, and then you'll have all of this. So you'll probably know that. For author visits, so scbwi.org is an organization, the Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators. It's a mouthful, but they will be able to tell you what local authors there might be who might be willing to visit Zoom, often for free or a small fee. Um, Different authors have different approaches for that. So you can make a real connection, and kids who can kind of see, hey, somebody wrote that book or illustrated that book. They're real people just like me. And then Kate Messner keeps a list of authors who Skype or Zoom. Skype is kind of, not a lot of people use Skype anymore, but basically they'll visit your classroom or library for free. And she also keeps a list of authors who do World Read Aloud Day for free. Mine is usually booked with people all over the country, and it's really fun reading aloud. And then the book becomes alive because the person who made it is there. And then Skype has, I believe, still some resources for talks and other experts. So it's not just authors. There's scientists and I think they even have astronauts, but people who have an expertise on a certain topic that might want to talk about it, and you can tie that into books. So this is me. Um, I won't go over my bio, but I clearly am a great reluctant reader advocate. I've had stories, I've had books published, Midnight at the Barclay Hotel, Double Vision, Daybreak on Raven Island, also some educational titles, and I've had some stories in Super Puzzle Tastic Mysteries, and this book here, The Haunted States of America. It's a collection of stories, and I have a Colorado story in that one, so that was really fun to write. Set it to Stanley. Um, and short stories can be a great way to also bridge that reading gap. So here is my email, and you can also ask Mary or anybody who will be able to put you in touch with me. And I'm happy to send you whatever you need, talk to you, and be a resource because we all want to uh, have kids reading. So, um, yeah, anybody have questions? There's some stuff in the chat. I can have a look and see what is there. Uh, the reading chain. So um, that was more it was like a phone chain of sorts. So where basically there was, like, I think it was a parent teacher organization, some sort of, they were really big on reading because the kids there had, I think, significant they were behind basically in their reading. All of the kids were, because it was a very impoverished community where there weren't books at home. So they tried their best there to make sure that the kids had books to take home, and that's just that they read anything. So anything counted. Um, so that's a possibility to do. It sounds like a lot of work. Personally, if I was in that position to try to get kids to read, but it was very effective from the sounds of it. So that's a way to go. Is a bit like logging the books that you read. But yeah, that's at least a memory I have of that, of the librarian sort of sharing that, hey, we were doing this in our school, and I was touched by the fact that the kids were reading pillow labels. And just kind of humbling also in the fact that I was fortunate to be raised in a house that was full of books, and not every kid has that. So it's important to kind of remember that. If you're also someone who has a lot of books at home, there's just, you all will know this better than I do. There's just a lot of people that just don't have that. Okay, we did that. We changed that. I love mysteries too. Yes, me too. Mysteries are the best. So fun. Dyslexic reader. Let me get back to you on that, because I think dyslexic readers need a different font. I know I try to when I have a short story on my website, and I put it in a certain font. There's certain font sizes that help with for dyslexic readers. I think it is very similar to what we were just kind of going through, meaning um, just to look for white space, look for dialogue, look for things that make the eye move. So some people go, "Oh, Harry Potter is great for reluctant readers," and it's really not. It's just that a lot of it's a great book series, and a lot of kids are passionate about it, but there's a lot of dense paragraphs in those books, and especially as you get into them, they're hard to read. So that would be my recommendation, is to look for that. I know there's an organization, and I wonder if they have a book list particularly for dyslexic readers. So I'll take a look at that, see if I can't find something on that. So that's an excellent question. Boys are the hardest to find something for to read. Any popular suggestions to get them to try something? You know, when my first book series, the Double Vision trilogy, came out, it was very much, we wanted to be book for boys, came from the publisher, and we want, so they put a boy on the cover, and they instead of publishing it under Fleur Bradley, they did it under FT Bradley, so under initials, which has been a giant pain in my butt. But aside from that, they were wrong about changing my name, doing the FT Bradley thing, but they weren't wrong about the fact that boys like to see boys on the cover a lot of the time. We try to get them to inch away from you don't want to start talking about boy books and girl books. That said, there is a real reality of getting boys to read is harder. Um, I think looking for books that have both a boy and a girl on the cover, that have protagonists that are boys, is a great way to start. Anything with humor. Gosh, they're always talking about Dog Man. The kids are, anytime I ask, what are you reading? Dog Man is a huge one. So those, I think the graphic novels are a good way to start. Something I didn't really talk about, but is a great idea possibly. Some books, classics have been made into graphic novels. A Wrinkle in Time is one of them, and they're quite good. So something you can do to kind of inch your boy readers who might be really into Dogman, say, is to try to see if they'll read the graphic novel version of that Wrinkle in Time, and then pair it with the normal quote unquote print version, and then see what they say, and tell them, hey, I have an exercise for you, and take a look and let me know what you think. And asking for their opinion is big, because we all want to have agency in the conversation. um, Somebody mentioned a dyslexic font that might be good. I know that there's some publishers that have done that. Here's Hanks. Here's by Henry Winkler. Oh, that's good. I hope everybody's looking at the chat. There's some good suggestions here, and that was my hope with this talk, is to not have it just be me talking, but for y'all to kind of connect and go, hey, this worked for me, or hey, this is my idea, because that's how, sometimes we spend too much time alone, and there's all this advice. Audiobooks are great. Yes. Excellent. Oh, good. So the Harry Potter audiobooks worked. Yeah, I think it's a great way, audiobooks, to take a kid who's maybe at this level and have the audiobook at that level and have them read along. So you kind of, it's stretching that reading ability, which is, it's like the muscle, right? For older kids. Okay, there's a link here. Excellent. I love it when I hear people use the book, at the Barclay Hotel or Daybreak on Raven Island. It's making lots of Battle of the Books lists, which is exciting for me as an author, because you just never know how it works out. Nonfiction, yes, huge. And it's fine. Any reading counts. It really doesn't matter if it's Ripley, believe it or not, or the Guinness, whatever, or it's something gross, and you're thinking, oh, this is like, you know, tacky stuff or whatever. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, if it gets them excited about reading, because they're reading words, and it does things in the brain that we all want them, to do. So that one is great. Yeah, so nonfiction. Try try as much as possible to try different things. It's a little bit spaghetti against the wall, but it's the best way um, to kind of open up the kids' minds, because you have to both, and that's the biggest thing at the end of the day, is we have to open up our minds, and so do the kids, and then cool stuff can happen. So I'm really happy that y'all let me talk here, and I'm hoping that this was a little bit helpful in kind of rethinking about how you might do some things, and hopefully there's some tools here. Um, and I really appreciate, really, really appreciate y'all, being here. If there's any more questions, put them in the chat, but you could also send them to me. And again, shoot me an email, and I can send you the PDF of this, talk with the links and the resources and whatever have you for later.
Thank you so much, Fleur. And actually, if you don't mind sending it to conference@clel.org, then we'll be able to share it
Okay.
out with folks after
Okay.
the presentation as well.
Excellent. I will do that. I will do that. Especially if some people may have missed it, that were, not able to be here or at the other presentation. Um, all right. Thank you all very much. And I hope you have an awesome weekend.
Thank you. And I will just do our quick wrap up as people are jumping off, but if anyone has more questions, we can do that too. Our next session, thank you very much for attending 5 Ways to Reach Reluctant Readers, and thank you to Fleur Bradley for presenting. Our next session will begin in 25 minutes, and for everyone, that is Shirley's Shimmering Story Hour, so that starts at 2:50. So in the meantime, please take a break, drink some water, do what you need to do, and we will see you back here in just a little while.